All right, looks like we're live and we're back at our Keller ISD, all Keller ISD staff meeting. So I know that last week this was very beneficial from the feedback that we received from our staff, and just wanted to be sure we tuned back in with you now that we're starting back up into week 2 of what this hopefully very temporary new normal looks like. One of the things I want to do, like I did before, is start with celebrations. Because we have plenty of things to worry about right now and to plan for. But absolutely, we need to be starting with celebrations. And what's top of mind for me continues to be how we're taking care of kids and our staff members, but specifically our kids through our meals and through technology push-outs. Our staff has just been tremendous. As of yesterday, I haven't gotten the updated numbers today because we're still doing it. But as of yesterday, we have actually served over 26,000 meals to our students over just the course of what amounts to 6 days. We handed out over 2,000 Chromebooks just yesterday. We had lines everywhere, but it was great because parents were just getting up there to try to get their technology. They had signed up in advance for it. We've had over 9,000 requests for Chromebooks, and that's going to actually spread out over the course of the week that we'll keep handing those out. But we are doing our very best, and our technology department worked all weekend to collect technology, to get hotspots ready to go for our families, and to give our families actually some different resources in case we didn't have enough hotspots to be able to access internet during this time of e-learning. So between all of that, those celebrations, and then obviously the celebration to you, our staff, and the fact that you went from, again, I will continue to say, a moment in time where it would take 12 to 18 months to prep for something like this. We did something in 5 days, and overwhelmingly, I continue to hear from different people how amazed they are at the fact that we were able to get this up and running as quickly as we can. I will also say, because as you know, I'm always as transparent as I can possibly be, and we'll be truthful with you. It's messy, and that's okay because we had 5 days to figure this out. So yes, it's messy, and we're going to talk a little bit about messiness and e-learning. But I just appreciate your patience through this. I appreciate you helping us figure this out together. I appreciate our staff and our teachers out there who are also parents, who are doing 2 things. They're teaching and they're teaching. They're teaching online with their kids, and they're trying to figure out how to teach with their own kids at home. And so I know that schedules are just a total mess right now. And to that point, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, if people are actually trying to have classes right now, we get that this is not necessarily even an ideal time for that, but everybody's schedule is such a mess. So, I'm on daily calls with the Texas Education Agency at 3. So our normal after school faculty time really wouldn't have even worked. So I just appreciate you being here. If you're live, obviously, if you're not watching this live, it's you're watching it recorded, and you'll get all the same thing. So I have over here, like I did before, I've got a Google Doc that's kind of ongoing, and we've got a lot of topics we're going to discuss. But then if there's anything that pops up that the team behind the scenes are going to be typing away on this Google Doc, and I'll try to hit as much of it as I can. I do want to have one more celebration. Actually, a fairly significant celebration was last night. We pulled off our first ever virtual school board meeting, and between technology and Amanda Bigby and our amazing school board of trustees, we got on and we did everything we were supposed to do. They say and want to express their thanks to you as a staff. They are equally amazed by the work that's been done. So all 7 of our trustees fully support what we're doing and everything we're trying to do to bridge that gap during this time. But probably the biggest celebration, because it was asked so many times in the last meeting, is the resolution that was officially passed. So for the question that was kind of lingering out there about paras being paid, hourly workers being paid, the resolution was passed last night. So officially, after the first 5 days that we were closed, now, as long as this lasts, our hourly employees will be paid based on the resolution that they approved last night. So all of that can now be officially taken off the table because we've taken care of that for our people. I do want to address real quick the stay-at-home order. If you've been paying attention, that's kind of been trickling around from Dallas County, and then it came up from some cities. that has been pushed out actually this morning was the Tarrant County stay-at-home order. They're using different verbiage than shelter in place. It's essentially the same thing. But in the Tarrant County version, they are allowing a little bit of activity to be moving around some, but the spirit in my mind is the same. And this is something that we'll talk about here just a sec, but the spirit of it is obviously to remove contact with other people as much as you can. Obviously, you're going to be going to grocery stores and different things because you got to have food and things, but just keep that in mind, because frankly, we're modeling that for our community. So there's one specific example. This stay-at-home order goes into effect at 11:59 p.m. But I do know we've had a lot of elementary schools, and frankly, it's been a really cool experience for our kids. Our elementary schools have been doing the drive, the car parade thing through the developments, and just again that connection, that emotional connection to our kids. With this kind of order in place, we're going to have to cease on that now. So even though it goes into effect at 11:59 p.m. tonight, if there's anything planned, if there's any kind of car parade planned, I hate to be the bearer of bad news on that, but we're going to have to go ahead and cancel, because again, I want to model to our community that we understand it and that we're going to do everything we can do to stay put and to stay at home. And obviously that's, while we might think it's essential to be able to connect that way, and I agree that it is, it won't be seen that way by others. So I want to be sure that we're all on the same page on that. A little side note, some of you might have been receiving some mail about the census. So it's easy. I did it. If you go online and you fill it out, it took about 10 or 15 minutes for me to fill it out. I will tell you just personally, so there's a picture right back here. You might only be able to see like this gigantic thumb, but it's my son sporting his Aggie stuff. And on the census, it actually literally said, so how many people will be in your house on April the 1st? So I even had to decode a little bit of that based on the fact that he's home now because they're trying to get people out. But anyway, there was all kinds of instructions about it. I did my best. Hopefully I won't be arrested for doing something wrong on the census, but the bottom line is it's filled out. So you need to go out and fill out that census. You have received a survey. So this, you would have gotten this and it might look like spam. It's a company called Energage. This was actually a survey that was planned to be done, way before spring break. We were going to throw this out as a culture and climate survey for our staff. And then all of this happened and we're like, well, you know what? We still got to ask. So you've got that survey. So please take some time to fill it out. I will say a huge celebration is that in the 2 days it's been out, we already have a 41% return rate on it. So thank you for those who've already filled it out. And I would encourage you, if you haven't, to go on there and let us know how we're doing, not only just during this time, but just in general in Keller ISD. Hudson Grant Foundation, that's a follow-up. So from last time, there was a conversation about extension of Hudson Grant Foundation timelines. Those applications are now accepted through April the 5th. So if you're looking at potentially getting something through the Hudson Foundation, make sure that you now know that the deadline is April the 5th. And the Ed Foundation grant deadline, in terms of the spending of your money for the Ed Foundation, has now been extended to May 31st. So if you fall into either of those categories, you now have updated deadlines, and we'll make sure if we need to, we can push some of that communication out as well. All right, so e-learning. So yesterday happened, and all of a sudden we are full on 35,000 students, 2,600 teachers, experts at e-learning. And we all know that we aren't, because you can't be experts in e-learning in 5 days. So again, I'm going to continue to go back to the grace piece of this whole scene. We're not doing grades. We're not counting or shouldn't even be expecting homework turned in by a certain time, because we have people all over the map on their ability to even learn in this kind of environment. So you've got to be careful when we're pushing this stuff out, the speed at which we push it out, the strength at which we push it out, and how we're expecting it back, because this is a big deal. Think about it this way. So I was thinking about this a little bit last night, and I got to thinking, okay, so let's go back to, we're the parent. All right. So now we're the parent of these students. And frankly, right now they're going, oh my gosh, teaching is hard and we need to open up schools. But we're the parent and we're figuring this out now. We're at home. And I'm going to go through a scenario of a parent that might have 1 or 2 secondary kids in their house, and maybe even an elementary student. If you think about the number of teachers that those students have individually, even secondary, since we're talking, they could have 6, 7, 8 teachers, all reaching out at the same time, all pushing email at the same time, all pushing Zoom meetings at the same time, all pushing assignments at the same time. While for an individual teacher, that won't feel like a lot because you're just trying to connect with your students, exactly what we've asked you to do. To the recipient at home, the parent, they are literally drinking from a fire hose that has been opened wide, and it's only going to last for them. They're just going to give up at some point if we're not careful. So with all of the resources we pushed out in order to help you teachers plan, I have some asks, and one of my requests is that you just pace yourself. Obviously we're going to go through this week and we're going to go through next week, and I don't know what happens after next week because I haven't heard anything yet. But if this continues to progress, and if we're out for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we've got to pace ourselves and not burn our people out, not burn our parents out, not burn our kids out, because we got so excited because we were finally able to connect back academically. So that's all. That's my request, is that we're just really, really careful with what we're pushing out. I know we're working on with Zoom. That's what we're doing right here. You're looking at it through YouTube, but I'm using Zoom. We're doing all of our meetings on Zoom. But when you have multiple teachers pinging at the same time, because we really haven't figured out a schedule yet, because different working from home, there's no way to necessarily coordinate your schedule with another teacher. Certainly one particular student can't have 3 different Zoom meetings going on at the same time with classes. So we've got to just really have a lot of conversations with our teams, with our teaching colleagues, with our principals, just to really identify how does this need to look. And I think the slower we step through this, the easier it's going to be on everybody involved. Because like I said, we don't want the frustration level to be so high that they just tune out and then you get nothing. So that's my request, is that you just are considering, yesterday, if I sent things out multiplied by 6 or 7 people, how would that have been received? And do I now need to kind of to step back a little bit and adjust how I'm working and how I'm communicating, so that I'm not inundating and I'm not overwhelming my parents and my students. But again, just to remind everybody, we're not doing grades while we're doing this e-learning thing, because again, there's just too many unknowns. I do want to talk about AP. So advanced placement, if you're an elementary teacher, you can obviously tune in on this and just out of curiosity, if anything else, but this is really more directed towards advanced placement. If you haven't seen it or haven't seen it yet, College Board has pushed out where everything will be taken at home online. No multiple choice portion of the AP test. It's all going to be free response. Hopefully that's not news to you. If you're an AP teacher, if it is, surprise, they're taking their test at home, and no multiple choice and all free response. So I understand that is the one segment of our teaching population that's working towards really, I guess, a quote unquote deadline, academic deadline. STAR is off the table. EOCs are off the table. The other academic year-end testing deadlines no longer really should be driving how we think about how we push out our academics. But I fully understand from our AP teachers that they're now going, okay, well, how do I get the information to my kids in a way that they'll be successful on the free response? I'm just going to go back. I don't have a solution for you. I'm not on this trying to tell you exactly what to do. I'm just asking for that consideration when you're putting information out there to the kids and to the parents, that you do it in a way that's consumable and not just coming at them so fast that they just can't even do anything with it. So that's just an acknowledgement of my understanding of where we're at with our AP and that level of work. We got a question on here about C&I and when curriculum's going to be made available. So their tentative plan right now is that you can expect new curriculum to post by 8 a.m. Thursday, the week before things are going to roll out. So that would give you all day Thursday and all day Friday to work through the new curriculum that's been pushed if you're needing that. So that gives our C&I team, the first 3 days of the week to get things going and ready to go. And it gives you the couple days to get your hands wrapped around the new curriculum. So that's their time frame right now. And we're currently working on report cards. So obviously we finished our third 9 weeks before spring break. Our fourth 9 weeks, which is what we're in right now, is completely unknown, because you just heard from me during this meeting, and you've heard it multiple times through emails and different things, that we're not taking grades. So we have lots of conversations going on with a lot of districts all around us. I'm not convinced we'll be all exactly the same, but we're trying to find some level of common ground on how we're going to manage grades as we finish out the school year. One possibility is, and this is not decided, so don't take this out of context and say, well, he said, but one possibility is just doing a pass fail and finishing out the year. And that's a conversation that's a dialogue that's being happened right now across many, many school districts. But once we land that plane on grades, we will obviously let you know how we're going to finish out the school year. But the operational piece of the third 9 weeks even has to be worked on, because I do know that we've got some folks who were still needing to finish up some things and finish up some grades, or kids who needed to turn things in that hadn't had a chance to turn it in yet from before spring break. So we've got some of those operational pieces that frankly, I wasn't in a really big rush to take care of, because we needed our focus on getting our e-learning platform out to you guys. So that's that part of it. So I'm just reminded, when you're pushing email, I think we're trying to automate some things on the backside, but in case that's not happening or unable to happen, when you're pushing email, please, please, please make sure you identify who you are. It came to our attention that when all the emails started blasting out, especially from TAC, it just comes out as a message, but it might not come out with much information attached to it in terms of who's sending it, grade levels, who's sending it. So at a minimum, can you make sure that on your signature lines, or if it's in TAC and you're sending it out, I'm not even entirely sure if there's a signature line there that you can use, but just in the email somewhere, identify who you are, so that when the parents are seeing it, they'll know who's communicating with them and what subject they're communicating about, so they can help manage that with their kiddos. I talked about Hudson Foundation or Transformation Grants. The application is reopened and extended through April the 5th. And so here's some, okay. So you see, we started with one question and now suddenly there's a lot. So I'll get to as many of these as I can, and we'll consume them as we can get to them. And I'll tell you again, some of the stuff changes on the fly. And if I don't know it, I'll just say I don't know it. We'll get back to you. All right. So the first question is the district doing anything to protect against Zoom bombing? So that's our new term now, Zoom bombing. Things that get created because of stuff we're trying to do. As teachers, what can we do? So Zoom bombing is for lack of a better term, just like photo bombing. Students are mainly high school students aren't behaving, or some aren't behaving on Zoom, and doing some things that they probably, or not probably, they shouldn't be doing on Zoom. And this is a really awkward classroom management moment when it's not a classroom, it's on Zoom. So our technology people from the backside are trying to work through some control processes. But there's not going to be a perfect control process, because again, I will say, when you go to this kind of a format, we would be troubleshooting for 12 months on something like this. So some of the things they're trying to put in place are the ability to, where a Zoom meeting doesn't even open up until the teacher is actually in the Zoom room itself. If you have not gone through a Zoom training, let's just say, hey, you saw it, you've learned about it from someone else, but you really haven't gone through the training. You really need to go through the training that's online through K-Cloud. Not sure where that is, if you want to get with technology or get with your principal, but that's going to be very helpful to you, because there's some tricks in there that you can manage Zoom meetings a little bit better that might fix some of those things. But the bottom line is, this is school. And if someone's misbehaving, then we're going to have to figure out through our campus administration how we're going to handle that when they come back. Through these Zoom meetings. So just be careful with that. One question I got, could this virus cause economic changes for the next school year, like layoffs, et cetera? Has the budget for next year already been set? We are right in the middle of budget. So the budget doesn't get set until June the 30th. And the way you need to think about school finance is it's almost a year in arrears when it comes to the revenue that we get. So I don't anticipate any impact to our revenue from this as we plan for our budget for next year. The other thing you have to remember is that our revenue is generated off of property tax value. So really the only time that you would have any significant impact from something like this is if property tax values plummet, which in theory, it could happen. So I'm not going to sit here and say all will be well, but I will also say for this coming budget, it's not a consideration because it's already kind of locked in to the property tax values for this year. There might be a ripple effect into next year, but again, the property tax values would have to take a significant hit. So right now we're feeling revenue hits in terms of businesses, but we're not necessarily, I just don't know if we're going to see property tax value hit, which that's that crystal ball moment. But if it happens, if we're seeing that, we will obviously be very upfront with our staff and let them know what challenges we're facing. But that's not in consideration for this coming year. Do we know if NHS applications are on hold for the time being? I wasn't sure if my student could reach out to the NHS teacher at his school. That is exactly what I would recommend. Shoot the NHS teacher an email and just ask how they're handling this through this shutdown. Shelter in place until April the 7th. Does that mean extended closure until then? When will the decision whether or not to go back April the 3rd? Well, so interestingly enough, yes. So shelter in place is the 7th. The governor said we're closed through the 3rd. So we're gonna, you know as much as I do at that point. And if we hear anything more from the governor, I'll let you know. But right now, if the governor's order expires on the 3rd, and Tarrant County has said we are shut down until the 7th, then there's your answer. We'll stay closed till the 7th. Are there any volunteer opportunities allowed for paras? Possibly, but here's the tricky part with paras. We have, it's not volunteer if you're, I know you're saying you don't want to work, you're volunteering, but we're in a position as a school district where if you're working, it doesn't matter whether you're volunteering or not. And so we still have to keep track of hours. So if there are things that you can do within your set number of hours as a para, certainly we can have you do that. We just got to keep track of your hours. Now, there's someone being really funny on my text message right now, and she doesn't think I'm going to call her out, but I'm going to because that's how I roll. And so before I get to any more of these questions, Leanne Shivers has sent me a text message. Leanne Shivers helps out the Falcon family, so everybody yell and scream for the Falcon family. Woohoo! Apparently I made everybody's day when I said year in arrears. So for all the junior high people out there who giggled and giggled and giggled when I said year in arrears, I said year in arrears, not year in, well, anyway, you know why I'm getting that text message. So thanks, Leanne, for that. I'll keep working on my words so that I can keep providing some comedy and entertainment. I'm wondering how many people have taken my poll, but that's for another thing. All right, any update on grades, grading? I think I've hit that already. Right now, we're working on no grades right now because we're e-learning. And once we identify how we're going to do our grades, we will let you know. How does pass-fail work in elementary? Fantastic. I don't know. Again, when we decide how we'll work this collectively as a group, then we will give you an answer K-12. I'm not talking just secondary. We'll provide you the information you need K-12. But for right now, because we're just working on getting people used to e-learning, don't even be worrying about grades at the moment, and we'll get you those details as it comes. Many of my students are asking how class rank will be calculated now if teachers aren't taking grades. Will a fall semester grades be their final GPA and rank? That's part of us figuring out grading. So it could be semester, it could be the end of the third 9 weeks. So for right now, like in our policy, the determination of graduation top 10% and other opportunities in terms of top 10, other graduation honors, it all ended on the third 9 weeks anyway. So once we finalize that, that's already a done deal for seniors. Everyone else, if we have to, so that pass-fail doesn't mess us up, we might have to cut off and just say for this year only, wherever you were at the third 9 weeks is where we're going to stick. But again, that's all part of the details that we're having to find a common ground on as much as we can. And then once we do, we'll communicate that out to everybody. While talking with TEA, has there been any changes with seniors and IGCs? No, other than we're going to have a lot of latitude because EOCs went away. So there's really no change other than we're going to make sure that we're taking care of our seniors, and our seniors, if they're in a spot of being able to graduate, then our IGCs will take care of that. But again, EOCs are off the table. So it's just going to be whatever our teachers feel like they've completed up to graduation. I'm going to have to get you a status on Kinder Roundup unless someone's on the line that can provide me that status, because I don't know that at this point. Will the stay-at-home order affect the technology distribution and the distribution of meals? No, great question. That's considered an essential service. So we'll still be able to do meals, and we'll still be able to finish out this week with technology rollout. Why are some teachers posting due dates? That's a fantastic question. At the beginning of this little e-learning piece, I remember I mentioned, we got to be careful. So if you're posting due dates, we don't know what those dates are even going to be yet. So, and to what end, because we're not taking grades. So just be really, really careful about how you're communicating these things. I get that you're trying to make sure kids are staying engaged, but sometimes even in our most simplest way of trying to communicate, it can throw out the wrong message. So if you're not sure, if you're trying to troubleshoot that, I would again suggest talking to your team, talking to your department, talk to your principal a little bit about what's the best way or what's the best strategies to try to make sure that we're keeping kids relatively engaged academically, but not sending the wrong message as it relates to grades. On EQ time, I did some PD videos and I got an email saying it was graded. After I just got done saying we weren't grading anything. That's kind of funny. My EQ has not been credited on my Strive account yet. Should I keep track of what I do and email it to someone later? That would be my advice. Obviously you've done it. And so if you have some documentation, just keep the documentation and we'll get it updated later. I have kids that cannot access their emails. Either they have changed their passwords or don't know them. How would we help those students? There is an email address that we can send. And if you need to help your students, that's fine. The email address is studenttechhelp@kellerisd.net. I'm going to say it again, studenttechhelp@kellerisd.net. Okay. Can we get KISD reports open for off-campus access? The report access would allow teachers to give. I have no idea what that question even means. There's like abbreviations, and I'll come back to that question once we get it clarified. Is there a timeline of days where learning is not mandatory? Will it ever be mandatory for our students? Should we be preparing for that? I'm going to assume, is there a timeline, meaning while we're on e-learning? And what I will say is that if we are off for these 2 weeks, obviously we're trying to continue to learn. We're just not doing grades because we're trying to figure out what academic environments look like in e-learning. If this thing continues for a long time, then absolutely we're gonna have to figure out what does that look like now that people are used to the e-learning platform. But we're just not there yet, and I'm not willing to give like a deadline for when that might look like, because I don't know yet what we're being pitched from the county side or the state side. Can you put a message or video or YouTube on how to download Zoom, Keller ISD student email, and Google Class? I think there are some of those support mechanisms out there. I'll make sure our technology team sees this question so they can upload whatever it is that you need to upload, because we want to help you however we can. Payday, if someone receives paper checks, will they be able to pick their checks on Thursday? That's a great question. We do have a skeletal crew that's working. They are considered essential up at the building. So I'm going to ask that you email our payroll department and work out a time for when you want to pick up a paper check. But that's going to be the best way to handle that, because I don't know exactly what times they're working up there. Can we staff faculty a copy on email sent to our students? I think everything we've sent to parents through the closure has been sent to staff as well. Can we faculty staff get copied on emails? I'm not sure what email. I'm not sure if the email or if the question means that we're sending something straight to students. but we'll work on that with communications on everybody getting the information that they need and that people are copied. Any backup graduation plans just in case? We actually are looking at that possibility. I told the board last night I wasn't interested in talking about any cancellation at this point, but I know we're working with Dickey's Arena right now to see if there is any options for into the summer. But until we know from them if there's even some open dates, then at this point we don't know. But we're working on some possibilities if we get to that point. Do we have technology available for students who need it? Yes, sort of. We have a lot of requests. We have over 9,000 requests that we can't meet, all of it. But if there is a hardship, if there is someone absolutely in need who cannot do what we need to do, then please either you, the teacher, or have the parent reach out to the principal, and we will figure out a way to get them what they need. But that's going to be more of a one-on-one, case-by-case basis, not just another all call. Since EOCs are off the table for this year, does that mean that freshmen will not ever be accountable for Algebra 1, English 1, and Bio EOCs? Correct. That's the word. That is almost exactly word for word what TEA has said. And if you're curious, if you're really bored, go to the TEA website, tea.texas.gov/coronavirus. And they have an entire assessment FAQ on there, and they address EOC. So if the kids were in Algebra 1, English 1, and Bio, they're sophomore, you're going to have to go back and take it because it got canceled this year. Are long-term subs who are the teachers on record still getting paid this time? Yes. So one of the decisions very early on was that we were going to pay our long-term subs if they were still doing the work of what the teacher would be doing. So any long-term subs we have, they're doing all the same thing. They're Zooming, they're trying to work with parents and kids. So they're going to get paid just as if they were in the classroom. Does parent tech help email also work for parents still? And the answer is yes. Back to the open access question. We can't help kids get their password because Keller ISD reports doesn't work when we're off the school network. Okay, so now we're talking. Okay, now I'm understanding the question a little bit better. The question was asked if there's a way to make that operational off campus. The Keller ISD reports allow us to give students their passwords. We're not able to access them now. So yes, there is, but it's called VPN. And frankly, we're really concerned with the number of VPN issues or VPN access points that are out there right now because of the essential work that we're trying to do and keep the business of school operating. So for now, I would say we're going to have to figure out a way with technology. And I know technology is on this call, so we'll brainstorm some of that. But we can't just throw VPN out to everybody because it puts way too much pressure on our network. And frankly, it exposes us to too many other bad things that are going on at the moment in terms of cybersecurity. So just to confirm, graduations and proms have not been canceled, right? Right. Graduations and proms have not been canceled. But I'm going to just say this very easily. If there's still a directive in place that says you can only have a certain number of people in one space at one time, then that's the answer. I'm just not willing to forecast that until we're told otherwise. Is the district working on a permanent online curriculum for K-12 for instruction and testing? Teachers can support via email, Zoom, FaceTime parents. So I will tell you that this, when we use the word permanent online curriculum, I mean, the curriculum is that what's being created isn't going to go away. I mean, it's just something we could use. In fact, I told someone the other day that I think there's a lot of things being created right now that given the right moments and opportunities and the right kids and the right teachers, the right combinations of things, if we step backwards and we just say none of it ever happened and there's actually some good that came out of this, and we're actually doing a disservice to our educational community. So I think there's a lot of things that are being generated out of this in a fashion that we can look and say, well, so now why can't we use portions of this permanently? I certainly am never, we're not going to go like full-time online K-12 Keller ISD. But there's going to be some conversations I think that will come from this, that people are going to realize there's different ways now that we can interact with the instructional platform in a way that we just hadn't talked about before. All right, so is this going to slow down the release of contracts for next year? When will those be sent out? I don't believe so, because it's our, I mean, we're, like I said, we're still working on a skeletal crew, but we should still be able to generate everything. But we will communicate with everyone when contracts will be coming out and if there's going to be a delay as a result of it. Paras, so the clocking in and clocking out piece, again, I'm going to go back to, don't worry about clocking in and clocking out. If you have not been able to, if you've not been given VPN access or the ability to be on time clock on your laptop or at home at all, then just don't worry about it. But you're going to have to document your hours, because you can't go over. You can't go over 37 and a half. So if you're being asked to do work from home, but you can't clock in and clock out, we've got to document that somehow, whether that's your supervisor or you, or a combination of the two. We just got to make sure we're documenting that. Okay. Oh, so this is how my communicate. Wait, I mean, there's a few text messages that have come through, so, and they might be answers to some questions. I'm hearing that payroll is emailing recipients of paper checks directly to set up times for pickup. So there you go. There's the answer for the paper check thing. I'm also hearing that working on Kinder Roundup plan next week. So you can expect something to come out about Kinder Roundup plan for next week. And they're still taunting me about the fact that I said or didn't say arrears. So, hey, there you go. It's live. So make a GIF out of it. You know who I'm talking to. So I think, and there was the other question about the grading period grades, the third grading period. And once we get our solution to how we're going to collect the rest of those grades, we'll get those posted. So, okay, so people apparently are asking, because I don't see the chat session here, but they're asking about the Kelly Clarkson tweet. So yes, I know Kelly Clarkson. I mean, sorry. It was, so go all the way back when she was in high school. She was in our church youth group. Michelle, my wife, and I, we were members of the youth team at the church, and she was there with us. So yes, when Kelly was growing up, middle school, high school, we knew Kelly. And so on a spur of the moment thing, we saw someone tweeting at Kelly, and in fact, I think Amanda Bigby said something about, hey, you know, I wonder if Kelly would do X, Y, Z. And I responded to them saying, well, we know Kelly Clarkson, and she actually thinks we're kind of cool. Not expecting anything. And then within 15 minutes, Kelly quote tweets my tweet to say, well, get on Twitter and you can see it. But anyway, so yeah, so there you go. That's 6 degrees of separation to Kelly Clarkson, because you know me. So anyway, I think that's everything. I cannot continue to say enough how much I appreciate the work you're doing, how much I appreciate the willingness you're putting into connecting with kids. I ask again that, you know, towards the beginning of this video, that we just be really careful about how much and at what speed, so that we're not overwhelming our families. But I know that's also a tricky thing to do when you're working from home and you don't have anybody else around you to talk to. So just do the very best you can. I know you already are, and I know that you're having a lot of those great conversations. And if you need anything, we're going to keep doing this. We'll have weekly faculty meetings. We'll do another live book reading on Friday like we did last week. So we're going to try to find some level of normalcy in this craziness. But other than that, I'm not seeing anything else. Have a great rest of your day and great week. Take care.